Welcome back to lesson number 3. I hope you've been practicing. We are going to start this lesson and start doing some strumming and some picking, trying to put together what you've learned from lesson number 2 in the chords and with the right hand. But before we start learning some basic strums, let me share with you my feelings about the right hand in general. In guitar playing, the right hand is really underrated. The difference between a mediocre guitar player and a fantastic guitar player has a lot more to do with the right hand than it has to do with the left. I mean, let's face it, most guitar players can play a G chord, but in the hands of an Eric Clapton or a Jimi Hendrix or a Mad Dog, that G chord comes alive. So, and the difference, of course, is not the way you play the G chord, but it's the way you address that G chord with the right hand. So to really get the right hand down with a lot of the nuances that we find in good guitar playing is really the pursuit of a lifetime. So that's an area that you will constantly get better at as you strive to do so. If you're ready for lesson 3, it means that you know all the basic chords, that you know all the major chords, the minor chords, the minor 7th chords, the 7th chords, and the major 7th chords. And if you know all those, then we're ready to start with the strumming. In addition to those, from the first lesson, you should remember all the fret, the letters, not the letters, but the notes associated with each fret and each string, and how to tune the guitar, of course, and my numbering system, so that we will be able to discuss chords and strumming appropriately. Also, you will remember your scales and that you're working on those. So if you're combining a good knowledge of your working scales along with all the chords, and remember the key to chord playing is being able to play each chord cleanly with no buzzing or thudding, and being able to switch from chord to chord seamlessly so that it doesn't disturb the music, and so it just absolutely flows. And once you have the chords down to that level, and you can switch from chord to chord, and you can see a chord, and you know exactly how to play it, then as you work on songs, you will be working mostly on your right hand, calculating what the best sound is. Now, if you're really ready for lesson 3, here's a test. Play a B7th. Now remember, a B7th, the best B7th, will be played in a bar chord in the A configuration. 2nd fret, and then you play the A configuration, but you have to make it a 7th, so you have to let go, take off 34 and play it to 32 with the bar. That's a B7th. What's the bass note of a B7th? Obviously it's the 5th string, because that is a B note. Good. What if let's have a tricky one. How about a G sharp minor? If you remember from lesson 2, I hope you're already playing it for me. A G sharp minor needs to be played in the bar position. The best place to play it is in the E configuration. So if we go from an E configuration up to F, up to G, a 1 fret higher than G is a G sharp. So we're going to play a G sharp on the 4th fret, and then we're going to make this E configuration a minor chord by just removing this finger. And there is a G sharp minor. Alright. If that was not a problem for you and you know all the chords like that well, then we are ready to proceed. If you don't know those chords, turn off the tape, go back to lesson 2. Now as I go through this lesson, I am going to bring the camera real close to the body of the guitar so you'll be able to see my right hand. You will not be able to see the left hand. I will be telling you some of the chords I'm playing, and you'll be able to hear them, of course, but you'll be looking at my right hand in terms of the strumming patterns and the picking patterns. So you will see my face again at the end of this lesson. Okay, well here we are. We're getting ready to start strumming now. Now there are some basic strumming patterns, but I'm going to be very honest with you when I say, as I look at a song that I'm getting ready to play, I don't truly determine which pattern I'm going to use. I usually just play the song like I feel it. And frankly, if I played a song 3 times, it would never be played exactly the same each time. It's just not. I'm just not that strict with the strumming. I'm an expressive strummer, and so I just feel it, and I might do it a little bit different each time. But there are some basic rules that I think we can all agree on. Normally, now I'm going to start with a D chord, and right now you can notice I'm not playing with a pick right this minute, but I will switch back and forth throughout the lesson so that you can get a feel for the sound and the way the hand works with both. Okay? The basic strumming patterns, and at the moment I'm talking about 4/4 timing. One of the things you want to do when you take a look at the song, if you have the music, is you look at the very front of the music, at the very beginning of the music, it will have some numbers up in the staff. And the 4/4 timing will tell you, and a lot of songs are written in 4/4, that means that there's 4 beats to a measure, and that kind of strumming is something like this. See? I go down twice, then up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Now you could play a song and only strum it down once for each beat, but what's the problem with that? Yeah, it sounds terrible, doesn't it? Even though it's rhythmically correct, it doesn't have a good sound. So if I'm in that particular case, I'm changing from a D to an A to a G to an A. That's quite a familiar pattern of chords. But if you went, that almost sounds like a song, doesn't it? Now I'm using my thumb, as you can see. You can also use the fingernail of your first finger, like this. You put them together like this. That's an E chord. I'm just using my 2 fingernails. Okay, so the first basic pattern that we need to practice and get very smooth, that's the key to playing a good right hand, is a very smooth pattern. It's down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Sounds like a country song, doesn't it? So it depends how fast you play. You can go. It sounds country, but if you go. Notice, same pattern. Okay, or same pattern. Okay, down, 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 up. I can't even say it that fast, but it's down, down, up, down, down, up. Listen fast. Okay, that's a real basic pattern that you might be able to utilize in a song. Really, as you practice and as you get good at this, one of the things you can do is tune your guitar. Right now, my guitar is tuned to perfect pitch, and I did that. It's not a relative pitch. I'm in tune with a perfect pitch. So if you'll tune your guitar with a tuner or with a piano, you should be able to strum along with me and practice, and it should sound okay because we should be in tune. So D, A, G, A, D. Okay. Well, that's one pattern that goes into 4/4. Now, there are other ones. Like I said, I've never heard of anybody listing the patterns. There aren't 8 patterns we learn. There aren't just that kind. It's not standardized, kind of like chords are. So I'm just providing you with some alternatives and then you fit them into the song as you see fit. And I'm going to, later in this lesson, I will be pulling out some of the songs that come in with the course, and you'll be able to play along with me as I'm playing those songs. And I will kind of show you a simplified pattern that I might want to use in each of those songs. All right, so then another pattern is this pattern is quite common. It's down, down, up, up, down, up, down, down, up, up, down, up, down, down, up, up, down, up. And I'll give you an example of something that this might be used for. D, G, A, D, G, A seventh, G, A, D, B minor, yeah, G, A, D. Okay, now you hear that song. That's not a specific song, but it sounds like 100 different songs. So that pattern can be used quite successfully with a lot of different songs. Remember, down, down, up, up, down, up. Now it's not each beat of that, or each strum of that pattern is not given the same time. Notice what I'm doing. I'm going. Okay, but you heard how it can sound in a slow song. That's D, A, F sharp minor, G. One of the things about that particular strum is when you start the strum, you want to try to practice hitting that bass note. That's kind of important. If you listen, see, right there, in A, it's the 5th string right here. That's a variation. Just the first down strum could be just the bass note. I'll do that in G. Now listen to the difference. The first couple of strums, I will hit just the bass note as the first strum, and so I'll go bass, down, up, down, up. So it's that's a slight variation from a full strum. Bass, and that's the strum. You decide which one you like depending on the song. There are some songs that really need a strong bass in order to hold it together and make it feel right. Now let me talk about the difference between 4/4 timing, which we see a lot in rock and roll and country and those kinds of songs, and 3/4 time. 3/4 time, you will run across a number of songs in 3/4 time, and again, to make sure what timing it is, you look at the very beginning of the song. 3/4 time is traditionally waltzes. Waltzes are a 3/4 time. That means that each measure has 3 beats in it. And a 3/4 time for the guitar is somewhat limiting. There's not a lot of strumming that you can do in 3/4 time. Because if you go too far astray from a real strict interpretation, it begins to lose its waltz feel. And so the waltz beat, or the 3/4 time beat, is this. It's 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's a D chord. Okay, and frankly, there's not a lot more you can do. If you get too far astray, as I've said, it starts beginning to feel not like a waltz, and so you've got to keep it fairly straight. When we get to our picking, you'll find out that slow waltzes many times will be picked. We have our 3 fingers here. Now, that's not much different than what I was doing before. All right, that's D, A, B, E, F, and so forth. F minor. All right. Anyway, I'm not playing a song at the moment. I will be playing an example of a waltz later. But that's the difference between 3/4 and 4/4 time. 3/4 time is very strict. 4/4 time has a lot more variety to it depending on what you're trying to do. Now let me talk about the difference between an up-tempo song and a ballad. With an up-tempo song, especially if you're playing the guitar by yourself, let's say you're sitting around a campfire or you're sitting at home with a group of friends, with an up-tempo song, when you're playing by yourself, the guitar wants to be as full as possible. You want to play briskly, and you want to play the right kind of rhythm, and you want to make it sound as full as possible. With a ballad, the key to a ballad is not as necessary to be full. You want to make it sound pretty, so you'll play softer. You'll maybe on a fast up-tempo song, you might want to use a pick like this. Here's a pick, and I will show you how to do some up-tempo songs with a pick. The way we hold a pick is we put our thumb across the pick like that, and on the backhand we kind of go like this with the thumb in between. And I know for first it's going to not feel very comfortable, but after a while it'll come natural. Okay, so this is the pick, and so if I wanted to do a fast song, an up-tempo song, I might have a strum like, or let's say La Bamba, or obviously the same chords with La Bamba is, you'll find out that they fit hundreds of songs. It would be a 1-4-5 pattern on the guitar. 1-4-5, you know what that is already. If the root of the key, or the key is in G, the 4 is a C and the 5 is a D. So if we play G, C, D, that's a 1-4-5 song. Almost all blues, B.B. King type blues and others, those are written in 1-4-5. So it's G, C, D, G. Now what am I doing there? I'm kind of giving some staccato feel to it. I'm going, see? I'm actually kind of slapping the strings to give it a feel. I probably shouldn't do that for you, but I can't help it, frankly. So C, D, G, G, C, D. Now notice I'm not playing a very strict rhythm. That's if I'm going. That sounds terrible. So you gotta add some swing to it. You gotta add, and you just have to practice. As you practice, strumming up is just as valid as strumming down. There is a different sound to it though, if you'll notice. Strumming down, up, obviously starts at the high. Strumming down goes up. Now normally, obviously, we play going down. But if you know, the up strum is an accent and used an awful lot. So as I play some of these songs, that I will in a couple of minutes, practice feeling the song and getting natural. Once you get this pattern strum going, you will do fine. Anyway, on fast songs, we want to be able to play nice and full and bright, and so I'm going to play a fast song in G. Let's say something like Johnny Be Good or something. I'm not going to do all the fancy stuff. I'm going to play just a real straight rhythm pattern to Johnny Be Good in G. The chords are G, C, and D. Here we go. Okay, I don't know, did you hear that? The changes, of course, but did you see the pattern? What am I doing there? Down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Does that look familiar? See, they're all just variations on the same theme. Down, down, up, down, up, down. Notice that second strum I'm doing, to add some variety to it, I'm instinctively taking a little longer through the strings, and so I'm going, alright, I'm going, see? Hear that? Yeah. Okay, that's a common strum that you might find in a lot of songs, and we'll, as I said before, as we go through some songs, you'll see more variety of various songs. Let me show you how to strum a slow song. On a slow song, I would put the pick down. Wouldn't use a pick on a slow song because I don't want that tinny sound. I'm going to play a soft song with a strum. How about? G, F sharp minor, notice what I'm doing, I'm the same strum, playing with my fingernail, my thumbnail, G, down, down, up, down, up, with a pause. The pauses are very critical, otherwise the music sounds very monotonous. So it's so that's a pattern you might want to try also. Keep practicing that. That can be used. That can be used in lots of different songs. Now let me give you some basics of finger picking. Finger picking is very heavily used if you like James Taylor, Simon and Garfunkel, those kinds of songs. They are excellent finger pickers. Lots of country music. The boys that playing country music these days are just about as good as they get. And So picking is a very important aspect of proper guitar playing. Obviously, we do more picking on ballads and slow songs than we do on fast songs, but let me show you some basic patterns of finger picking. Now, a finger picking, it always includes the bass note. And usually, and I say usually, the bass note is the root of the chord. If I'm playing a D chord, I'm going to be playing a D note for the bass. 40, fourth string open. Now let me play it. Okay, there's a D chord, and the bass. There are a couple of different, real basic finger picking. One is you pluck the string. You're playing 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. And you're just with these three fingers, okay? I'm going to go from a D to an A. Play the A bass. Same. I'm not changing my three fingers, so I'm still playing the top three strings. Rarely, it's interesting, we rarely move. Although sometimes we certainly can, but we rarely move interior. Typically the third finger is on the top string. The top three strings are really important for the guitar. If I just play down here, it loses. And so, unless you're going for a very specific thing in music, typically with finger picking, at least at the beginning, we're going to use the top. All right. So, pattern number 1. D, G, bass, A, G, A, D. That's pattern number 1. Now, patterns can be variations of that, obviously. You can go and all I'm doing is I'm going bass, 3, pick, and when I'm plucking both strings at the same time. That sounds familiar. Mr. Bojangles. A little bit of variation there. Anyway, that's a... Okay, now I talked previously about the difference between 4/4 time and 3/4 time. So let's make sure you see on a soft ballad like Can I Have This Dance? Anne Murray, famous mostly because it's a relatively rare song in the pop genre that is actually a waltz. So if you can remember the waltz pattern on strumming is the only difference with picking is that bass, pluck, pluck. You're going to pluck all three strings at the same time. And I just add that in for a little variety. This gets boring, but you can't get rid of that rhythm because that dance step is critical. So G, A, G, A, D. You hear it? Okay. when you're picking, it's critical to play the right bass note. Occasionally, if you're looking at music, if you see a chord above the words, above the line, and it has like for example an E minor /B, that /B indicates the bass note. Typically on an E minor, I might, you see, if I was going to play this song, a song like this, had this kind of rhythm, I might alternate between a real straightforward picking, and then I might go. Got to keep the same 4/4 timing, but if you do any one strumming for too long, it gets monotonous. Don't get frustrated with this, you will get it. But okay, now on the bass note, I'm at the moment I'm plucking an open E 6 string for the bass, but if it says B, C, see, that's just B, A, E. Hear how the different, it can be a substantially different sound just by changing a bass note. My 3 fingers are doing identical things every time. Anyway, so it's critical to play the bass notes. If a song shows you to play an alternate bass, you should try to do it. You'll find out as you go that sometimes it's not critical, but other times it really makes a difference. And you'll see that as I get into some examples. Now, before we get into some actual examples with songs, let me talk a little bit about putting some variety in your right hand. I think I've mentioned it already, but it's really important. Any one song, 3 or 4 minute song, if you play the same pattern, same picking or strumming pattern, the whole song, it just gets real monotonous. So mix it up, throw some stuff in there, make some mistakes. You'll go off key, or when I say off key, I mean you'll go off rhythm, I guess is a better way to say it, sometimes when you're trying something, but that's okay. That's what it's all about. You may come up with something really great. Remember, good guitar players develop a solid right hand with some variety and some real quality material. So now we're going to do some songs. So open up your course book and let's go to the first song. Here's a popular song, Aerosmith's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, from the soundtrack of Armageddon. Now this, of course, is a ballad, and as we look at the chords, none of the chords here are chords we don't know. D, A, B minor, G, an F sharp minor. Remember what an F sharp minor is? You're going to play that in the bar position in an E configuration. All right, now we're going to start this song by picking it, but you just never know where we're going to end up. So here I go. Follow along with me with the sheet music that you have, that I provided, and see what happens. I will call out the chords as I change, and I will just play through the first verse, and you'll get some of the variety that I throw in. Okay, I start with picking. Ready? You know, the first words come in, I could, and then it's that's the first verse. Notice the kinds of picking I was doing. See, I instinctively use this. Another good example of a fairly easy Ballad would be in the front of your book, pretty close to the front of the songs. Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams in the Robin Hood soundtrack. This song again is a ballad, and as I play through the first verse, you will notice that it in fact sounds very familiar, very similar, I guess, to I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. So here's the first verse, D-A-G-A. What am I doing there? I'm putting together two picking patterns to make one large picking pattern that covers two beats. So let me show you that. You've seen that before. Bass, third string, pluck, third string. Those are 4 notes. The third note, of course, is the double note. So that's the first part. But because that gets boring, what I do is that I play that, then I add, and we've been through that one too. Bass 3 2 1 2 3. You put both of those patterns together, and you get this. And if you apply that to a song like Everything I Do, it sounds like this, starting in D. Second line. Pretty straightforward. That, you can't do the full pattern on that one D at the very end because it's too quick. You only do half a pattern, then down to the A. All right, on the chorus of Everything I Do, you notice that it starts off on Tell with an E minor. E minor, of course. But then you have, on Worth, you have to change to a D with an F sharp bass. Now how do you play a D, a regular D, with an F sharp bass? There are 2 ways to really play that. One way, let me get over here so you can see it. One way is you can actually bar the 2nd fret, so you can get that F sharp, and then with this finger here, you can play 32, or 23 I mean, and the top 3 strings are the D, notice, with the F sharp bass. The other way is to play a traditional D, then wrap your thumb around and get that F sharp that way. One other way, of course, it would be to play an F sharp up here on 44, and in that case it would sound something like this. But that doesn't sound as good because you're going from an E see? Those are the 3 chords in a row. That's a G with an E minor. Notice something else. This is important. When I'm picking a chord, there are 2 strings that don't get played. We're only really playing the top 3 strings along with the bass. So if the bass is an E, F, or a G, you're going to play the 6th string. If it's an A, B, or C, you're going to play the 5th string. And if it's a D, you're going to play the 4th string. Sometimes you also play an E on 42, and that's another bass note. But typically you want to get as deep as you can for those bass notes. It has a richer sound. So on a D with an F sharp bass, I'm only going to play the top 3 strings and 62. So how you get there, it doesn't matter. But is it important? Well, on this song it really is. Listen to the first line of the chorus and you tell me if it sounds good without the bass. Here's the bass first. Now if you don't play any bass notes, all you're playing is E minor. Just doesn't work, does it? So that's what I mean when I'm saying that sometimes bass notes are critical to your success. So you want to practice that. E minor, D with an F sharp bass, E minor with a G. Now the reality is all I'm doing is playing that G note because the bottom 3 strings on an E minor are all open. So let me just move over here so you can see this. See? And then it's second line is same thing. You see a lot of repeats in music. I'm back to the original pattern. By the way, on that D suspended, you're going to add 13 with your P key. That's the suspended. I didn't cover suspended chords, but just for your interest, what do you do on a suspended chord? You would sharp the 3rd. So you might want to put that in your repertoire because you do get suspended chords occasionally. Alright, so that's everything I do for you. You can practice that pattern. Make sense? Alright, and just switch back and forth. That's a good song to practice because really there aren't too many chords and they're pretty straightforward, most of them, except for that D with an F sharp bass, which actually becomes rather critical to play. Now turn in your books to Let It Be by the Beatles. This is a good example of a song that can be done very nicely, either picking it or strumming it. I'm going to show you an example of both, so you can practice. This song, review just quickly the chords. It's C, G, A minor, F, C, G, and then there's that little run, which I will show you when I get to it. First of all, I'll show you how I would play this in picking. I would. Here's the run. That run is noticeable, isn't it? That's a key part of the song. So but you don't have to play the chords. You can play but I'm playing. Notice what I'm doing. I'm playing an F chord, and because I'm gonna run and it's going down, I'm playing an F chord like this, so that I can play this bass note. If I play an F chord like this, I can't keep going down on that bass run. So I would play the F up here, and I would hit F. So that's the bass run. But if you want to play all the chords, you would play F, C. You don't have to put this one on because you're playing an E bass. So it would be F, C with an E bass, D minor, C. Has a nice full ring to it. Let me show you that again. First verse. Let me show you something else. Notice what I'm doing. I'm playing the same pattern I was doing on Everything I Do. It's a nice variety pattern. I guess as I think about it, I use this pattern quite a bit. And so, but notice the first half of the pattern is played with the C, and because this changes chords a little quicker, the second half of the pattern fits into the second chord. So the C, G, A minor, F, C, G, F, C with an E bass, D, C. Second verse. See what I'm doing? I'm just plucking everything with the bass. Notice what I did on the second verse of that song, the second half of the first song, I don't know, first verse, I don't know which is which. I guess it's the second half of the first verse. I reversed. I didn't mean to do that, frankly, but you can, it doesn't, you can go. You can play the second half first, or the first half second. That pattern I guess I use quite a bit. And I would suspect if you think about the words of the song, in the second verse, this pattern actually fits the words a little bit better, and I do that instinctively. So those are the picking patterns that I would use for Let It Be. Let me show you the strumming pattern, and again, very effective. What I might do if I was playing behind a singer singing Let It Be, I might start the song in a soft pick, real straight, no fancy stuff, because you don't want to interfere with singers. If you're playing a song with no singing, then you can add fancy stuff and do whatever you want. But if there's a singer up there, you've got to play the song super straight, because it will interfere with the words. You are not, if you're playing with a singer, the singer's the star, you are making the singer sound good. That's the key. So here's the way I would strum Let It Be. And I might give you an example. I might pick the verses, and then I might strum the choruses in this song. Strumming adds strength and adds some excitement. It builds up. So here's how, but let's say we wanted to strum the entire song. That's our choice. Here's how I would strum this song, using my 2 fingernails. Or let's use my 2 fingernails. Here's how I would do it. Does that sound like the song? It does, because I'm putting a rhythm in it that is recognizable. Now, if I was going to play full blast on this song, here's how I would do it, just to give you an example. Words of wisdom. G, F. Now notice what I was doing there. When I was playing full bore, I was adding bass, adding a little, this kind of stuff. Sometimes I even hit this to add a little drum or percussion. It all adds to the fullness of the song. But that's the strum. Now notice what I'm doing. That's a very distinctive. See that pause? That adds variety, and it sounds right for the song. If I just did, notice what I'm doing. Are the chords right? Yes. The chords are nice and clean. They're right. I'm changing fast enough. What's the difference between a guitar player that does this and a guitar player that does? The difference is the right hand. Very important. That's Let It Be. Practice that and you'll get good. Let's try one more song today. Our last song today for lesson number 3 will be Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. It's a classic song. I'm using that song to show you a very specific thing. If you'll open up your course materials and find it, you notice that the chords, again, we see the second chord of the song. You see all those the chords above the words, all the way at the top? That's the intro. And that I would play G, D with an F sharp bass, C, D. You repeat that. Notice I'm using the same basic pattern of picking. And here's how the verse goes. And you're playing that. Does the bass note on this particular song? The bass note is critical. So it's G. I'm purposely playing a different pattern. Could I do the same pattern? Let me see. I am, but let's try this one. Try this pattern here. C, G, F sharp with a B flat, B minor. B minor, you play a B minor, but instead of playing the B bass, all you're doing is playing the F bass, F sharp bass, I mean. What they want you to do is have a descending bass. So let's play that line over. We're going to go from a G, do I look, B minor with an F sharp bass, all right, with an E bass. So is that important for the song? So C, okay. I'm worried so much about the strumming, I'm not playing my chords properly. All right. Let me go through the entire first verse again, and you'll get a feel for. I sort of mix up some of the picking patterns that you've already heard. It would go something like this. Okay, so now you've seen some basic strumming patterns, some basic picking patterns, and you can, as you progress, you'll be able to play hundreds and hundreds of songs with the basic ones that I've showed you. The key is combining clean, quick chords with seamless, smooth picking or strumming, and if you combine those two, you will sound like $1,000,000. Okay, I'm back. Alright, in this lesson we've put together some strumming with those chords you've already learned, and we've put together some basic picking patterns. It's not going to be easy for you. It's going to take a while for you to really get a hold of those and make them sound good. Don't get frustrated. And as you practice those things, your right hand will get much stronger, and you will sound like a great guitar player. So, work on the songs I've given you. When you really are comfortable with your scales, with the frets and the notes on the frets, with all those chords I've talked about, and with all the strumming patterns and picking patterns that we've already talked about in this particular lesson, then you move on to lesson number 4, where I sort of put it all together for you, show you some tricks and fills and runs and other things to make that guitar playing really put you into professional category. All right? So as I fade out here, let me show you the strumming pattern that I would use for another one of the songs in your course. This would be Candle in the Wind by Elton John. Here's how I'd play it. Pretty boring, isn't it? But if you're singing it, it'd be fine. 7th. B. C sharp minor. E. That's Candle in the Wind. Fairly basic, just strumming it. If you wanted to pick it, of course, I would use the same pattern. Little variation. What I was doing at the end there. I was doing a combination of picking and adding the bass in kind of a strumming.